Welcome to this initial demonstration of TermHub, West Coast Informatics Terminology as a Service solution. We're going to walk through a few key features of this application that show some of the important aspects of what it does. We're starting here already logged in, looking at myself and a list of projects that have been created that I have access to. As you can see, there's a few projects set up already. COVID-19 surveillance is an example of a project that might offer consolidated browsing and API access across terminologies and subsets to view and interact with COVID-19 specific content. Think the COVID-19 subset of SNOMED and corresponding other subsets of LINC and ARC-SNORM and vaccine terminologies that may have relevant content. Remote monitoring project here is an example of a project that might contain terminology specifically geared towards use cases around patient remote monitoring. Billing audit project is an example of something that might be used to align billing activities with standard terminologies to check against the codes that were used and amounts of those codes and how they correlate with the corresponding clinical codes that might have been used in the EHR. And we have the Sandbox project at the end. Sandbox is a public project available to all users and exists to enable testing without any special effort. TermHub includes a client SDK library with examples. They use the Sandbox project to demonstrate API calls and their response bodies. The goal is really to enable out-of-the-box and easy API interactions in a variety of programming languages to demonstrate the system's core capabilities. In addition to having access here to my list of projects, I as a user can belong to one or more organizations. And then specifically within the context of an organization, I can have a number of projects that are sponsored or owned or managed by this organization. Additionally, within an organization, there are people, including myself and other users who have privileges to operate on these projects, create them, edit them, add and remove permissions for other users, and teams so that groups of users can be combined together with certain privileges and levels of access. This is to drive different kinds of users to share information and access to different kinds of projects that are for fundamentally different use cases. So it's possible for a user to belong to one or more organizations. Organizations can have multiple people. It's possible to include outside contributors and have more public access to projects and things like that. Let's go back here to the project list, and now we'll go through looking at creating a new project. So here, I might want to create a project to make use of clinical terminologies that are important in the US, that are part of the set of US standards. So this is a project to configure standard terminologies used for clinical care. The idea is that we want to have access to specifically a set of terminologies that are the ones that are relevant and defined for the standards of interaction with clinical data in the US. Got a few of these terminologies loaded here. We've got ICD-10-CM. I'm going to choose latest for each of these. And what I'm doing here is creating a configuration that specifies that these 4 terminologies should be part of this project. Here for SNOMED, we have the US edition and the international edition. I'm going to stick with latest. We can scroll down here and see that what I've got is these 4 terminologies configured to be the latest versions. And part of what TermHub offers is the ability to include automated version upgrading so that a project can have always latest access to the terminologies that are of interest for a project. I'll go and create this project here. Another use case that's a little different is you might want to have a number of terminologies from different versions. So I could come in here and instead create a project to specifically take a look at the differences between the January and July 2021 SNOMED editions with respect to concrete values. So concrete values data was introduced in July 2021. And for historical inspection and comparison of the data, it would be an interesting opportunity to create a project like this that would let you look at side-by-side versions of the same terminology to understand how the content changed and what it looked like in January and what it looked like in July. There are other similar historical situations where you could go even further back in time and really ultimately look all the way back to the beginning of the terminology. So here, let me go and create this project as well. And you can see now I've got quite a lot of projects going on here. I can go into the details of a specific project. So here's our clinical terminologies project. Again, this is an example of a project that is tracking the latest versions of these terminologies, whatever they happen to be in the latest versions are currently listed here. There's a few things I can click on in addition to having information with the name and the about and the ability to edit project information and sort of the details of this project and when it was created and so on. There's a browser link, terminology API, and Fire API. So we have integrated developer documentation into this project so one can interact with and actually make calls against the terminology API. Fire API to reveal similar information and documentation about how to interact with the Fire API. And then of course we can come here and take a look at the terminology browser. So in this case, we'll do a select SNOMED here and do a simple search for diabetes mellitus. This returns a number of search results. And we can click on one of them here and see a basic concept view off to the right here. TermHub will implement multiple different terminology browser views to support users familiar with other browsers out there in the wild, and also with users that have different kinds of use cases. Different research, historical things, looking across different terminologies, annotating journal articles versus trying to find the right code for a subset to represent some aspect of clinical care. Sometimes those different use cases demand different user interfaces and perspectives. We expect this to be a vibrant area of feedback in the future. Just to show something else here, I'll click on ICD-10-CM and you can see this shifted. And now we've got a mixture of search results across ICD-10 and SNOMED. So in this browser context, you can both search within terminologies, across terminologies, and even across terminology versions. We talked a little bit about how terminologies can be automatically updated. We're going to do a quick look into that. So now I'll make a project that we're going to call local allergy lists, and this represents essentially a test project for terminology that we use that's just a simple list of allergy concepts. Here you'll see allergy. If I expand this, you'll see there's one version of it, version 2.0. But for this purpose, what I want to do is click latest. Again, this is now a project around this local allergy terminology that's pointing to the latest version. What we're going to do in a second here is perform an update, but we'll just take a quick look here to show that it's the right version. So we'll come into the browser, just like before. I'll click allergy and we'll search here for almonds. And you'll see that nothing comes back. And there's no allergy to almonds concept in this version 2.0. So let's come back here to the projects list. And what I'm going to do is kick off a process in the background that's going to update the allergy terminology to the next version. So from version 2.0 to 3.0, this is a system level background activity that takes place, and projects don't need to do anything particular to respond and manage the ability to then access the latest version of the terminology. So in a second here, this will finish. And what we'll do is reload the page and we can then see the changes that happened as a result of that. Okay, so I'll reload. And now this allergy project has been updated. We can come in here and see that instead of 2.0, it's pointing to 3.0, even though I took no action here in the browser other than refreshing the page. In addition, you'll notice in the upper right, there's a notification that has arrived. And this tells me that the allergy terminology has been updated to version 3.0. So this is an important point because it means that the system has the capability to use notifications to inform users of either events that have occurred of importance or things that may be coming up. So in advance of a terminology change, users can be notified that that's happening. And then of course, once it's happened, they can be notified. And notification mechanism can be configured to send email or SMS messages, as well as being this in-app form of message that we were just looking at. That way, everyone on the project, in the organization, everyone in the teams who are relevant to this can be aware of what's happening and sort of choose and configure their own settings regarding notifications. Just for a quick check, if I come back here to the browser again, and we perform that search for almonds, you'll see that there is now an allergy to almonds concept present in the new version of the terminology. And so that sort of shows you what happened there. Now, automatically updating to the latest version may not always be the most desirable situation. What we were looking at there is a situation where we chose latest. We might want to be more specifically bound to a particular version. So for example, a billing audit project might require that through a period of time, a particular version of the underlying terminologies of interest are being used. So here we just have an example of a project pointing to an older version of the US edition of SNOMED. And the system is aware here that there is a newer version. So the 2021-09-01 version is available. And I could click here and this would take me through a flow of choosing to on demand enact that upgrade to the new version. And that way I would be able to manage the change over time according to the schedule with which I needed to manage it rather than for having it automatically. So these are some of the key features we wanted to show: teams, organizations, users, projects. There's a lot of different use cases for projects. The system is designed to really easily have fast project creation and the ability to easily stand up, point to always current versions of terminologies that'll be updated automatically, or to manage that yourself, have a seamless project to browser capability, inline developer documentation, and a lot of other exciting things coming our way. So thank you for watching and enjoy.